It sounds very Hendrixy. I love it.
It's loud, you can hear it.
You can feel it. Hey, this is Mike McCready, and I'm hanging out at Fender Studios checking out my new Mike McCready Fender Stratocaster. So the history of the 1960 Strat that I'm holding a replica or a model of by Fender is that I, early on in our band's career when we first started selling a lot of records, which is relatively quick into our career within about a year, and I finally I got some money and I thought, okay, I'm going to buy a really nice guitar, and I want to buy a Stratocaster, and I want to buy one because Stevie Ray Vaughan played in 1959, and I worshipped him at the time and still do, and Hendrix played the Strat, so a lot of my favorite players always played Strats, and I found my 1959, which later turned out to be a 1960, and I got it, I think, in Guitar Center in Los Angeles. I picked it off the shelf and I immediately loved it. It was worn away and just the coolest looking scratches on it and things that I have a thing about used guitars and the how someone else has played them, and there's maybe part of their soul or their vibe is in it, and it's also at how worn down the neck is. It's got to play very easily and not a lot of finish on it. So the used ones had that. And again, thinking it was a 1959, I bought that back in the day, and that was basically what this one's based off of. I've used it, for over 1,000 shows. Probably played Even Flow on it 1,000 times. I can guarantee you that, and on mostly every one of our records except for the first record. Yeah, it's got a huge history with me. My 1960 Strat is my go-to model that I go to. The thing that stands out for this Fender initially, and which is super important to me, is the feel of the neck, and it feels, identical to my original one. Even it looks like it. So the wear pattern on it, how there's not a ton of finish on it, and it feels like it's been played a million times. The frets feel great when I go across them like this. That's a super important part for me. And it's gotta be. I gotta be able to do that kind of stuff, and rip on it really quickly. This guitar allows that. Sometimes guitars don't do that. You have to kind of fight them a little bit, and this one I don't have to fight. I just pick it up, and it screams. When I'm playing guitar and I'm doing a lead, I'm constantly changing pickups because I know out of the five positions, I'm going to get what I need out of it. But I can't tell you beforehand what I'm going to do. Like here's an example of if I'm doing a lead in something. So there's kind of an example of, that's kind of how my brain works. My early influences as a young guitar player, I started playing when I was 11. You know, were the standard kind of guys that were on the radio back then. You know, my first band ever, the reason why I started playing music was Kiss. That was it, because Kiss to us guys in the 70s was the Beatles basically to us. At least it was to myself and my friend group. And so I was into Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley, but I also liked Aerosmith. I liked Joe Perry and guys like Brad Whitford or Angus Young. I loved early AC/DC with Bon. You know, mostly the rock guys, and then the Stones, of course, too. You know, Keith and Mick Taylor for sure, huge influence. I love Brian May. I never talk about him enough. You know, all those guys from the '70s era when I came up was what I was listening to. And then Steve Ray Vaughan, when I got to see him, I was lucky enough to see Stevie 4 times in Seattle before he passed, and you know. Stevie made me understand Hendrix a little bit more, because I couldn't really ever understand Hendrix because he was Hendrix, and you're just like, what is he doing? But I could see him do things with his thumb on, you know, Monterey Pop and the footage that we had. But until I saw Stevie do that live, when I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan play with his thumb, it made me. I think I had to see him do it live to make me understand Hendrix even better. So that, you know, and I've been using that forever. I used it, that style with Stone when we had a live, I was doing this as the rhythm part. So I was doing it this way because of, you know, the Strat players that I love so much. When I'm playing with Pearl Jam, you know, there'll be times when Stone will be playing, you know, he'll play a Les Paul, so I'm going to take the Fender because I want to have the mixture of the two. That's always kind of been the focus of my thought process in terms of playing with Stone, is we're going to play different guitars most of the times, because my favorite bands like Aerosmith or the Stones, you know, they were doing that, and that sounded so unique. If you have 2 of the same guitars, sometimes it doesn't add the same thing as 2 different guitars. And my different guitar is the Strat. So, and me being more the lead player, this allows me to do kind of the screaming leads that I need to do. And again, I go back to even flow, or, you know, but I've used it on every Pearl Jam record since the second record. You know, this guitar has taken me all over the world. It's taken me to play with Neil Young. You know, as his backup band, we were luckily able to do that. So, again, he had his thing, and I had the lone Strat out there, and I could cut through with this thing. Although it's hard to cut through because Neil is you get into his world, and it's so good. It's allowed me to play on, you know, different stages all around the world, different scenarios where I'm jamming with different, you know, people. I've you know, play with Brandi Carlile sometimes, and I work with her on things. To you know, Soundgarden guys, I sat in with them a couple times, and I brought my Strat. So. what I wish for anybody who's kind of starting out guitar or is thinking about looking at buying this guitar, I want them to, have a great experience with it. I want them to be able to, have fun with it. That's number one, but I want them to be creative. I want them to get out of it what I get out of playing. That's how it makes my life better. I want it to make their life better if that's what it does. That's the icing on the cake. But I want them to know that they're getting a quality product and that it plays as well as it could possibly play for me, and I love it. So I want them to know that they're going to get that, and that they'll be able to create themselves. If they can, new players, old players, if they can get anything out of this guitar that's positive and is creative and makes their life a little better, start a band, whatever, do all that, and I hope that for everyone. But it's also important to me that they like it and they're having a good time doing it, and that's the point of all of it, hopefully is creating, and they're creating with that McCready model, and it blows me away that it happens, I picked not the wrong one, but the copy 3 or 4 times by accident because they were so, spot on. So, but like I was saying earlier, it's got to play perfectly, whatever my version of that is. It's really on par with the original. So it's like, really, it feels.